Widodo.com is the fastest growing online news portal in Indonesia. It's an independent agency. Let's bring in Mr. Arfi Bambani Amri, managing editor at Suara.com in Indonesia, a member of the multi-stakeholder advisory group of Indonesia Internet Governance Forum, and he's also an analyst for Indonesia Press Council. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Ray. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's start the Global Affairs Insider.
Yeah.
As the managing editor of Indonesia's leading and fastest growing online news portal, how do you think freedom of expression is redefined by the use of internet, including the other modalities of technology?
In Indonesia, you mean? Yeah, thank you, Ray, for the question. It's really interesting uh interesting question. Um the freedom of expression in Indonesia is relatively better than the rest of Southeast Asian countries. Yeah, like we've been I've been spending my time for study in Singapore. I can say Indonesia is relatively better than Singapore in terms of freedom of expression online. But of course, we have some problems. And in my experience, the problems mostly related to the level of digital literacy of the society. We huge function rate society. So I mean like this. Um, though our literate number is really low, maybe just around 5% to 3% of the whole population, but we have what we call it as a functional illiterate. So they can read the word, they can read the sentences, but they don't know the meanings. That's the problem in our country, because, and this related to a reading habit in Indonesia. So yeah, I just talked with my sons this hour ago, talk about this. Indonesians, let's say, can read something like functional. Let's say the word functional. They know the functional, but I don't think that the majority of the people here in Indonesia really understand the word functional. You know what I mean, right? They can read it. It's related to our languages education too. So during my time as in my primary school, 30 years more than 30 years ago, the way we got our learning in languages, just like we call it phonetic learning. So like this, let's say the word functional. So we should read fung, si, oh, no, just like that. Yeah, it's really weird because because we're using Bahasa Indonesia. It's the way we learn languages at the beginning in our life in Indonesia. But the thing has changed right now. So I look at my son in his primary school. Now the students are taught by comprehensions the word, and you have to word. That's better. This is most like it's like you are learning English. So they adopt this kind of methodology in teaching a language, and this good for our future literacy in Indonesia. So this so the issue of freedom of expression related to this, the digital literacy, the level of literacy of the people. So many cases related to, so when something online, you read something on social media, they say bad words on somebody, and then people will ignite it, will get, what we call it, being angry because of that content, and they will do and maybe uh, do physical attack to you. That's one of the many cases like that, or just report you to the police or to the another law enforcement in the country. Uh, this happened to many activists, fashion activists, or uh, uh, yeah, cases in journalism. So journalists stated something harsh on public, let's say on his or her social media, and they will get attacked from persons or people that don't like this his post her or his or her posting, or report him or her to police, and police will detain him or her because of this social media posting. That's the, yeah, you can see this case almost every month. There's always new case like this because our level of literacy, I think, is low, and you are easily being humiliated or easily being attacked because of somebody's words. That's related to the level of literacy. And we still have a problem. We are now in the process of having a new criminal code. So there is a criminal code bill going on right now in the country, and the lawmakers try to insert some articles that can criminalize people that criticize president, criticize the man in power. Yeah, that's the one of the articles that being a concern here from any human rights activists. And yeah, I guess this law, this bill, if it ever being enacted, it will be a problem for our freedom of expression in Indonesia. And yeah, there will be another fight, another battle we should go if this criminal code is enacted, the new criminal code is enacted. Yeah, maybe perhaps I can answer your questions related to that, right?
How do you think this current situation will certainly change the landscape of the forthcoming national elections in your nation? What do you think can we expect from
Mm-hmm.
the usual traditional campaigns? And how do you think it will benefit the current frontliners for the
Mm.
presidential bid?
Yeah, this is a good question. I like this question. I had a talk with a member of parliament here. There will be three important issues that any president's candidate should respond. One is about food. Yeah, because of then there is disruption of food supply, especially when Russia attacked. I mean, there is a stable uh, in the world, and it affected Indonesia as well. Let's say for uh, noodles, instant noodles is common staples here in Indonesia. Really popular. Like maybe you know Indomie is really popular here as well. And noodle is made of wheat. We don't produce wheat because we are tropical countries, right? And we have to import it. And one of the biggest producers in the world is Russia. And so we we are facing a volatile wheat supply right now, and government thinks about a replacement for wheat, but I don't think it will be happen the soon, anytime soon. Uh, but food will be one of the issues that any candidate should talk about. How uh, uh, to this food supply can provide it for. Yeah, we have a population, right? To more 270 millions people here. Yeah. And the second issue is energy. Uh, the energy consumption. We talk about any energy, right? Fuel, about renewable energy. We should talk about electricity. This is the thing that any candidate should talk about in Indonesia, especially when people around the world talk about electric vehicle, that talk about renewable energy. Indonesia should be part of that movement. And luckily, uh, because we going to hold the G20 uh, this November in Bali, and it seems that the government tried to accelerate the electric vehicle ecosystem here in Indonesia, which is good, and though it's not really uh, accelerated enough. And I got this I acceleration issues when I was going back to Singapore last July for the uh, convocation for the Lee Kuan Yew School, and I took Grabs and Gojek there in Singapore, and most cars that I rode that time were hybrid cars or electric cars. It doesn't happen to me a year ago. It didn't happen a year ago when I was in Singapore. So within 1 year, Singapore and the situation where in 2020, 2021, when uh, in the first year for my study at Lee Kuan Yew, when anytime we took Grab or Gojek car, it's usually a fossil fuel car. But last July, I can say, let's say I took 10 times Grab car or Gojek. It's okay to mention brands, right? So let's say I booked for 10 times, and only one time that I got a fossil fuel car, and the rest are hybrid car or electric car. It's amazing how do they for government? I don't know how, but here there is some ride sharing car that is electric car, but I never got it one. I never got it. So still need maybe a couple years to go back to that electric vehicle ecosystem. But the G20 summit that's going to happen on November accelerates it more faster to go to that direction. Uh, the second issue. The two related to unemployment. So, these are three issues that any potential candidate should talk about, should address in their policy, in their programs, in their speech to people. Jobs is really important. In this era where we have a digital ecosystem everywhere, and there is automation, there is uh, artificial intelligence, where any machine can replace our jobs, providing jobs for people is becoming more what we call it, more vital. So the policy of government, the policy of the policy that made by the policymakers should to address this. In one part, we should address automation. We should address digital. We should address AI. But in another part, we should make sure that jobs still there for these people, for this unemployment. And for Indonesian context, we should talk about millions of, maybe around 50 million people. Be- uh, because we call it a demographic bonus. We have a huge young generation that needs to be addressed in this industrial ecosystem. And I don't know how can this be answered, the third question. But if we look at Indonesia, a couple of years back, the start of President Jokowi's administration, he was helped by Gojek and Grab. Yeah, I come back to that brands, Gojek and Grab. He was helped by these platforms. How can I say he was helped by this? These two platforms contribute. There is a research. There was a research in Gajah Mada University that these two platforms has contributed to our GDP about 2%. 2% GDP contributed by Grab and Gojek, and 2% GDPs. We will talk about 2% of the population, right? So we just use the rough number. 2% of the Indonesian population is about 40 millions, 50 million people. So if we just use the comparison, the rough comparison of this number, GDP and populations. 2% of the GDP, 2% of the population. We will talk about 5 millions. Oh, no, 50. 5 millions people. And you know how many Grabs and Gojek's partners? The number is about 2 millions. The partners. And we do not talk yet about the they have a service like Grab Food, right? And the stalls that work with the restaurant that work with Grab Food, with Gojek Food. So there is a multiple populations that related to this. So I can say the problem of unemployment during this presidency has been mitigated by Grab and Gojek. Right. Yeah. Nah, but this is not going to work for long, right? You know, there is a new I read a new article about Uber. Uber is the pioneer, right, in this ride sharing business. They don't get benefit. What you call it? They're not profit yet. They have been in this industry for a decade and they're not profit yet. And I think the same situation happened to Gojek and Grab. They're not profit yet. So this is a dangerous situation actually because we don't know how we how will it be in the next couple of years after this. So so presidents, any candidates should talk about this, how to create a sustainable jobs for our huge population, Indonesian population. So those are three issues. I don't know, maybe perhaps somebody from the presidential candidates watch this and will get my my talk about this. Yes, that's it, right? I hope it makes your
Mr. Arfi Bambani Amri, Managing Editor of
editor.
Swara.com from Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ray. Have a good night.
This is Rayron Del Rosario. That's the Global Affairs Insider. Follow us on our next episode only here in IPDCI News Channel.